Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 282 for the 16th of March 2014. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. On this week's show, we're going to be splashing with my plesiosaur. That was actually a song from the 1980s, Splashing with My Plesiosaur. Well, we're going to be talking to Daniel Loxton, who is an author from Canada, about his new book, Plesiosaur Peril. Daniel Loxton, of course, very famous for being involved with Junior Skeptic. Anyway, we'll find out all about his latest book. What a fine children's book it is too, Plesiosaur Peril. After that, it's a week in science from our friends at the Royal Institution of Australia, www.riaus.org.au, and I wonder what's happening this week in a week in science. After that, it's the announcement of our winners of the Cosmos giveaway, signed the autographed book and the other bits and pieces and goodies. Two people, one from Australia and one internationally, both came very close to guessing the right number, between 1 and 1,000 million, and we'll be telling you more about that later on in the show. And I was so pleased to see the great reviews for the latest series, the new series of Cosmos. And don't forget, those people in Australia, those people listening in Australia, oh, indeed, that show starts tonight on the 16th of March, and it'll be going for weeks and weeks and weeks. Tune into National Geographic. Everybody else around the world, check your local listings. What a great way to spend an hour in front of the TV. After that, it's Dr. Rachie reports with the latest goings-on with the Australian Vaccination Network, or as they're calling themselves now, Australian Vaccination-skeptics Network Inc., or Vaccine-skeptics. Oh boy, you think we would be up in arms about this, but you know what? It's all bad for those anti-vaccination people. As Dr. Rachie will be explaining in her Dr. Rachie reports this week, an interesting update about the long and winding road, the tortuous tale of the vaccine deniers in Australia. You know what, folks? The other day, another group of interesting people, Homeopathy Plus, put out a little statement saying that along the lines that if smallpox ever came back, then people better reach for their homeopathy. Sometimes words fail me. Then to round off the show, it's Maynard. Maynard's Spooky Action. A bit of a light-hearted Maynard this week. Very much a light-hearted Maynard. I caught up with Maynard. We had a nice lunch together. Chewed the fat in a record bar. So Maynard's Spooky Action this week is Maynard and I looking around a record bar and getting nostalgic about some of the albums just for fun. Just a light-hearted way to end this episode of the Skeptic Zone. But before we get on with the show, the world's media is full of news about this missing flight, MH370. I don't need to explain it to you. You no doubt know what's going on. And guess who's come out of the woodworks? Yes, it's the psychics and their ilk who are now giving their visions of where this missing aircraft might be. Oh, what helpful people they are. What helpful. Especially one former spoonbender who says he's been asked to help find the missing aircraft. Yeah, this is where the word skeptical really comes into its own. There's a good report about that at Doubtful News. So Google Doubtful News and have a look. You would think that these people would have the good sense to shut up. And one last thing. On last week's show, we spoke to Dr. Besh Saab about his upcoming trip to the Utah desert, where he's going to be simulating a Mars mission. If you want to ask a question of Dr. Saab, and why not? Why are you going to Mars? What's it like being in this place? What's the food like? Anything you want to ask him and the team, well, if you send me the message, I'll pass that along. send your questions to Dr. Saab, S-A-A-B, care of Cosmos at skepticzone.tv. Well, why not? I've used that email address lately, so why not again? Cosmos, space, Mars, yeah, it all works. If you have a question for Dr. Saab about going to Mars, send it to cosmos at skepticzone.tv. I'll pass those questions along, and we'll see if we can organise for him to reply here on the Skeptic Zone. Keep listening to the end of the show where we have exciting news about the upcoming Australian Skeptics National Convention here in Sydney in November. But for now, well, my voice is just about to conk out, I think. In fact, I'm just getting over a cold I picked up from my nephew, but there you go. Oh, it's worth it. It's worth it seeing your nephew if you get a cold occasionally. Oh, well, that's the way it goes. So I'm going to run downstairs and get that lovely lemon and honey and vodka and lemon and honey while you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. And joining me now from that wonderful country, the land I dream of, the land of hockey pucks and the friendly giant, and things like that, it's Daniel Loxton.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Not a problem, Daniel. In fact, we haven't seen each other for quite a while. I think the last time was the Amazing Meeting.
Yeah, it would have been in the halls of Tam. It's the great gathering place of the skeptics.
Yes, it is, and I think that's the last time I saw your wonderful wife, Cheryl, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last time I saw her, I ran up and gave her a big hug, and I said, wow, great to see you, and she said, be careful, I'm pregnant.
Yeah, we have 2 children now, so that's keeping us busy.
I bet it is, and it's quite appropriate in a way, because you're on the show today, well, to have a chat and a bit of a catch-up, but also to talk about your new book. I'm very lucky I have a preview copy here, and it's just sumptuous. The imagery is beautiful. It's all about plesiosaurs, which some people mistake for dinosaurs, but they're a little bit different. It's called Plesiosaur Peril. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so Plesiosaur Peril is my third and final installment of the Tales of Prehistoric Life series for Kids Can Press. And it is a storybook for little children. It's designed for ages 4 to 7. So it's the kind of thing that you could read to your kids at bedtime. But it is meant to be as grounded as possible in legitimate, genuine natural history. So as much as possible grounded in science, or built on inference based on what is known from the fossil record.
And as I just mentioned, the book itself looks beautiful. The colors, the imagery, it almost looks like somebody jumped into a time machine with a camera and was taking photographs of these things. It really is something special. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of putting those images together?
Oh, yeah, I'd be delighted to. People who know me through my writing for Skeptic Magazine in the U.S., or, the Junior Skeptic section is my main gig there. They don't always realize that I am primarily an artist. I come to skepticism through art. And these Tales of Prehistoric Life books, they really gave me the chance to cut loose. So, I was really aiming for something that, that looked like you traveled back in time with a camera and just swam alongside these animals and took some shots. It would have to be a really good camera, and you'd have to be a very lucky photographer. It's sort of heightened realism. We build up as photorealist a scene as I can. Me and my collaborators, especially Jim Smith, my collaborator on these books, we build up a scene which is, as close to perfectly realistic as we can achieve with our resources. And then we tear that down again. Use kind of illustrators' tricks to, heighten the lighting, heighten the drama, focus the attention, to give it a little bit more of that storytelling gloss. But it is meant to be grounded as much as possible in a realistic effect to connect it to the kind of science grounding of the story.
Well, I'm just flipping through the pages of the book now, and I mean it. It really is like somebody jumped into a time machine, into a TARDIS with a high-resolution camera.
Thank you. That was the idea. It's a lot of landscape photography, which is a little tricky underwater. Those photographs are highly manipulated, those background photographs. In many cases, there are dozens of photographs that have gone into one background, and quite a lot of computer-generated material as well. And then the main characters are computer-generated. And then with extremely high-resolution textures, which in turn are taken from nature. A lot of high-resolution photography of live animals, museum specimens. I got some really fantastic access to the behind-the-scenes collections at the Royal British Columbia Museum here in Victoria, which was really, a really rich source for this and for the previous book, Pterosaur Trouble. And so, by layering up all this real and computer-generated and artistic material, you should end up with something which is really hard for people to decode. It should look real, and they should really wonder how on earth you achieved it.
That's exactly what I was doing as I was flipping through the pages. And of course, this is a follow-up, as you said, to your other books, the Ankylosaur Adventure and the Pterosaur Trouble.
Yeah.
And yes, it would be a great book for bedtime for kids. You can flip through and read the sweet little story about the plesiosaur and show the kids these wonderful diagrams, and the way the sun is shining down through the water. It really is quite special. Well done, Daniel.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very proud of it. In particular, this is a technical point that your audience won't maybe care about, but those kind of rich cyan colors of the water, those are really easy to make on your screen, or relatively easy. They don't reproduce very well in inks. And so I was really on the edge of my seat waiting to see how those blues reproduced, and they're really nice. They're like a jewel. So I'm very, very pleased with the production values that Kids Can Press brought to it.
Now, this is brought out by Kids Can Press.
Yeah.
Can I assume that's short for Canada?
I believe so. They are the largest printer, largest publisher of children's books in Canada, and they are the publisher of my previous nonfiction book for children, Evolution: How We and All Living Things Came to Be, which is really the big hit of my career. That one was sort of a surprise hit that took off beyond our expectations.
Now, how can eager parents and others, and uncles, people like me, get their hands on a copy?
If not 2 or 3 copies. Amazon has it in stock, Amazon.ca up here. We have it in stock at skeptic.com, where you can find much of the rest of my work with Junior Skeptic. And any large retailer in North America, you should be either able to find it on the shelf or order it in. And support your local booksellers too. Make sure to put in some requests at some of those little mom and pop stores.
And people can get more information by going to www.kidscanpress.com.
Yep, that's right.
Now, speaking of other things, and you just mentioned Junior Skeptic, how long have you been involved with that? Because I seem to remember some years back I invented a little origami dragon for Junior Skeptic.
You sure did. That was really kind of you, and it was a fun little collaboration. I've been a Junior Skeptic for 11 or 12 years now. I came in at issue 14, and we are just rolling out issue 50. It comes out a little bit less than quarterly, and so it's been a long haul. I've got to cover a lot of really interesting stories. Junior Skeptic is the 10-page kid section bound into the back of Skeptic magazine, and it is the area where we get to spend the most time looking at these kind of wonderful old skeptical chestnuts, the the great old paranormal stuff, UFOs and things that go bump in the night.
Oh, I love all that old stuff. That's what really got me into it in the first place. I know there's many important issues in skepticism. Of course, the anti-vaccination, the fight against those people, and rip-off merchants, and all sorts of things that well, maybe a little bit new on the scene compared to the good old-fashioned stuff, but I like the good old-fashioned stuff, and I like the fact that the younger generation, kids getting interested in science and skepticism, can get their teeth into that, the old-fashioned skepticism, the UFOs, the monsters, the things like that.
They are great topics for kids, the monsters especially, because they're nice kind of concrete mysteries they can dig their teeth into, and often to some extent, they're solvable mysteries. So that's always nice to be able to present a satisfying conclusion to a story. This brings up my other recent book, Abominable Science, my big book for grown-ups on the topic of cryptozoology, co-authored with Donald Prothero for Columbia University Press. Writing that thing, which is just a whopper, it's like 400 pages on monsters. I was surprised just how much scholarship there is left to do on those topics, even within my little subspecialty of legendary cryptozoological creatures. This kind of skeptical investigation that we do, the old-fashioned stuff, I don't think there's any end in sight for that kind of research. I think it will always be needed, and I think there are a lot of questions left to ask and still more left to answer.
Yeah, and it's fun. Let's face it. It's fun.
So much fun.
That good old-fashioned stuff is so much fun. To digress a little bit, not long ago I was interviewed by a TV station here about a story on UFOs, and for a short time I was able to look at photographs of UFOs and give them my opinion, and it made me feel a little bit nostalgic, I guess.
Well, I mean, one thing that encourages me is the knowledge that these mysteries are, to a very large extent, they're underserved. So we live in a world that no longer has a Phil Klass or Carl Sagan digging into UFO mysteries, but there are always new UFO mysteries. While there are many people focusing their attention on very worthy subjects like immunization and hysteria surrounding immunization, there are other stories to explore, other mysteries to solve, and that gets me up in the morning. I love those stories.
Well, that's why Junior Skeptic is so important, I guess, because you get to go into those topics. Do you get much feedback from the Junior Skeptics?
I do. You mean from kids? I do, and from parents and teachers, and that is really encouraging. In recent years, a lot of parents have been sending me pictures of their kids reading my books or reading Junior Skeptic. Which, I mean, as you know, writing is a really kind of solitary, lonely thing, and you work on these things alone, and then you ship it off somewhere, and it's gone for months, and a year goes by between the time that you write some of these things and the time that you hear anything kind of feedback back from it. So by the time you've waited that long, when you do hear feedback, it's extremely, well, it's like rocket fuel. It keeps you moving forward.
It's an interesting parallel there, because in my other life as a part-time actor, I can do things and maybe a year later or something like that, they'll pop up on TV and people say, I saw you on that show, and I say, what?
Exactly so.
Well, I hope you don't have any plans in the near future to give up your skeptical activities. Is that what takes up most of your time?
Yeah, Junior Skeptic takes about 2 months out of every quarter, and that leaves me a little bit of time left over for side projects, and working late nights and weekends. I get some of these books made. But right now, I have Plesiosaur Peril will be my last book for a little while. I'm just concentrating on Junior Skeptic. And I expect to be doing that for as long as they let me do it. It's my first love, and there every once in a while somebody asks me, "Oh, well, I guess you'll run out of these kind of far out mysteries to tell in Junior Skeptic." Yeah, no, not so much. You could write this for 100 lifetimes, and you never get to the bottom of it, because not only are there always new mysteries, and not only are there always more mysteries, there are always deeper levels to go with these mysteries, and there is always a new audience that hasn't heard the old treatments in the first place. So, like the kids that I started writing Junior Skeptic for. They've graduated college now, and some of them are, already thinking about starting families of their own.
Wow, that's put a new perspective on it. But what a good thing. What a good thing that kids in their younger life were reading Junior Skeptic and are now progressing.
I might just quickly shout out to Valerie Wyatt, my editor on all of my Kids Can Press books, including Plesiosaur Peril and Evolution, and to Darren Naish over at Tetrapod Zoology, who served as a science consultant on both Plesiosaur Peril and Pterosaur Trouble. So paleozoologist Darren Naish helped me to get my facts straight.
Anyway, the book is called Plesiosaur Peril. You can get it by going to www.kidscanpress.com, or you can certainly find out more information about the book there. I imagine you can get it all over the place. And it really is beautifully illustrated. Illustration scarcely is the right word. It's beautifully photographed, I think is probably more appropriate. And it's a great story too. Why not order all 3 books while you're at it?
Yeah, please.
Daniel Loxton, all the way from beautiful Canada. One day I'll do a tour there. I will do a tour. I look forward to it. I have so many friends there. Daniel Loxton, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Did you see that UFO sighting that made the news? What did that latest study about alternative treatments really say? Is this photo making the rounds real or a hoax? Doubtful News is a unique website featuring news about pseudoscience, the paranormal, anomalies, and questionable claims framed with a skeptical view. Come visit doubtfulnews.com every day for news about cryptozoology, conspiracies, shams, scams, and more. Follow us on Twitter at Doubtful News. Critical thinking is essential in assessing today's news. Doubtful News helps you decide, can you really believe this stuff?
Since the dawn of civilization, humans have searched for ways to beat aging and live longer, happier, healthier lives. For those looking for an answer, recent research suggests that by eating less, we might also age less. Of course, we've known for a long time that a good diet can lead to a long life. In a well-known experiment, mice were fed a very low-calorie diet and lived 30% longer. We don't really understand how, but evidence suggests that a low-calorie diet increases the production of protective factors that prevent genetic mutation and help repair damaged cells. In simple terms, a low-calorie diet helps our bodies slow the process of aging. So what's the reason for this? It's believed that a calorie-restricted diet triggers an evolutionary advantage that would have allowed us to survive during times of famine. The only drawback is that you have so little to eat, very few people stick with it. A real-life example is the Okinawa diet from the Japanese Ryukyu Islands. People here have the longest life expectancies in the world. Their plant-based, low-calorie diet is also considered a major factor. The secret seems to be not so much about what's in the diet, but about what's missing from it. But it's not just fewer calories. The food eaten is fresh, not processed, making it much lower in salt, fat, protein and sugar than a typical modern Western diet. A study in 2007 showed that Okinawan people following the indigenous diet were far less likely than an American of the same age to end up with heart disease, metabolic disorders, and a number of common cancers. And now, time for 4 fast facts about diet and long life. The traditional Okinawan diet contains 30% green and yellow vegetables. An Australian health report suggests that in the short term, our current diets will reduce the Australian life expectancy by up to 2 years. According to a UN report, the Japanese have the highest proportion of 100-year-olds in the world. And the oldest person ever to have lived, French woman Jeanne Calment, who died in 1997 at 122, was a chocoholic who drowned her dinner in olive oil and drank red wine every day. Maybe less on your plate really does equal more. For more information, check out the RiAus website. And we'll catch you here next week. Bon appetit!
And the cosmos is yours. Now, come with me.
As mentioned at the top of the show, we have some winners. We have some winners for the Cosmos giveaway pack, and these people chose numbers very close to the random number. Our international winner is Geert Bonte. Well done, Geert. And Geert lives in Belgium. Yeah, winner from Belgium. And the Australian winner lives right here in Sydney, as it happens, James Murch. Congratulations, James, who told me when I delivered the prize package to him that he came up with the number by looking at the speed of light in a vacuum. Well done, James. And my thanks goes out to the wonderful people at the National Geographic Channel for supplying those gift packs.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachael Dunlop.
Hello listeners and welcome to Dr. Rachie Reports. Well, it's been a bad week for the AVN, or should I say the AVSN. Yes folks, you heard it first here. The AVN has a new name, the Australian Vaccine-Skeptics Network. This was officially introduced on March the 7th when it was approved by the Department of Fair Trading. Now, I can already hear some people starting to get cranky about this, saying how can they co-opt that word for their own use? But consider this. Even I was slightly annoyed when I first heard about that, since myself and many of you listeners classify yourselves as skeptics of the scientific skepticism kind. In fact, the first time that we became suspicious that the AVN might go after the word skeptic was after a decision was handed down by the Administrative Decisions Tribunal about their name change, where the magistrate suggested in the finding that vaccine-skeptic would be an appropriate name for the AVN. Now, somewhat disappointingly and also surprisingly, the magistrate stated in her findings that she was not provided with evidence to convince her that the AVN were anti-vaccine. And this is despite the fact that the Department of Fair Trading had this evidence in bucket loads, so I'm not quite sure why it was not tabled with her. In any case, it was clear to many of us then that the AVN would go after the word skeptic, and this is in spite of Merrill having used it in a derogatory fashion for years, often shortening it to septics. At the same time, however, she had also decided she was a real skeptic and we are pseudo-skeptics. So after more than 12 months, they have now become the Australian Vaccine-Skeptic Network. Now, the reality is that the public perception of the term skeptic is of climate change and moon landing skeptics, 9/11 skeptics, and other assorted conspiracy nutjobs. So in actual fact, it's probably not a bad thing that they've got this tagged onto their name. However, in my opinion and the opinion of others, including Dr. Stephen Hambleton, the head of the Australian Medical Association, this name change still doesn't go far enough. What we would have obviously preferred and what would be ideal would be the anti-vaccine network, but in reality, we were never going to get there. So in another twist on the name change, Merrill is now claiming that she can maintain the acronym AVN and the URL avn.org because vaccines-skeptics is one word. I don't know about this. Also of interest is another person had registered Australian Vaccine-Skeptics Network, but with skeptic with a C and without the hyphen between skeptics and network. And they did this months before the AVN did. So really, according to business law in Australia, they really shouldn't have been allowed to register this name because it's too similar to the one that had already been registered in December 2013. This person now has a right to challenge them on their name, and so this may be the beginning of another saga. In any case, I imagine the AVN are pretty pleased with themselves for pulling this little stunt. But unfortunately for them, the media coverage of the name change was peppered with the acronym AVSN and referring to them as anti-vaccine. Now, this prompted Merrill Dorry, the public officer, to huff that she had told these people they are still known as the AVN. Now, I wonder what the Minister for Fair Trading will have to say about that. The AVN smugness, however, was short-lived because in the following day, the first draft of the 2013 Healthcare Complaints Commission investigation into them was released. Now, listeners may recall that the HCCC first investigated the AVN back in 2009, and this resulted in the HCCC issuing a public warning about the information on the AVN's website. Now, the AVN famously successfully challenged this investigation on a technicality. Thus, the finding was overturned and the public warning was quashed. In addition, the AVN's charity licence had been taken away but was reinstated after the finding was overturned. There must have been some very red faces in various government acronyms that day. However, the New South Wales government was determined not to give up chasing the AVN, so the technicality which tripped them up last time and was their undoing was changed by legislation and included now an amendment that enables the Health Commissioner to instigate investigations even if the public does not complain. Thus, almost as soon as they'd made this legislative change, they began a second investigation into the AVN. The draft report was released on Tuesday and was published by the AVSN, as they are now given an opportunity to respond to the Commission's requests. Essentially, the HCCC trolled the AVSN's website and selected 8 points that they identified as misleading. Then they asked experts to analyse whether they were misleading and why. Their findings make for some good reading, and you can access the full PDF on my website on the blog, skepticsbook.com, if you want to read that later. But mostly it's laden with things such as remove this claim and do not replace. For example, remove any claim that vaccines cause autism and do not replace. Remove any claim that says vaccines have never been tested and do not replace. One wonders just how much stuff will remain on the AVSN's site if they agree to cooperate in this investigation. But the luzz that has come out of this has been astounding because the AVSN has published several of their responses to the HCCC. And as you can guess, they're chock-a-block filled with hubris and hilarity. So it seems very unlikely that the AVN will comply with the requests of the HCCC, and it seems that the HCCC also think this is the case because they've already written a new public warning that will be released if and when the AVN refuse to comply with their requests. So I must say, I'm very pleased to see this warning back again. In fact, it's different to the previous one, but this one's even better. But that's not all. The icing on the cake this week came earlier today when it was noticed that the AVN had surrendered their charity licence. So Stop the Australian Vaccination Network, of which I am a member, have been trying to get the mainstream media interested in the AVSN's financial statements for some time. Since we've been poring over them for quite a while and we've noticed some pretty big holes and discrepancies, particularly for a charity. So, for example, just picking some from the financial statements that we have, in 2010, there was $170,000 listed as other expenses. That's pretty huge for something that's not specified what it is. There was $5,000 paid to Merrill Dory for each edition of their now defunct magazine in editor's fees. And in 2003 and 2004, they spent $39,000 on computers, and this was in addition to the cost they spent on the website. That's huge, and even more of a worry for a charity. But what is more worrying is that the financial statements provide no evidence whatsoever that any of these monies are going to charitable purposes. Most recently, for example, the AVSN were promoting a crowdsourcing campaign for a child who suffered a very rare vaccine reaction which rendered her blind. Her parents were raising money to build her a sensory garden, yet despite a monetary challenge from an SA Vienna to match his $1,000 donation, the AVN never did donate to that cause as far as we know. And this is despite Merrill Dory claiming publicly that the AVN helps vaccine-injured children and families every day. Quite despicable, in my opinion. However, in an unusual move for the AVSN, yesterday they published a blog post in response to an inquiry from a journalist about their finances. This story was released yesterday in the mainstream media in Australia. The funniest part about the story was the byline, which was a quote from the accountant that the newspaper employed to troll over the finances, which was, "These are the worst set of financial statements I have ever seen." So perhaps the AVSN began to realise that they could no longer justify their charity licence if they were challenged on it. It may also have been that phone call from a journalist asking them about their expenditure that contributed to them saying it's all too much, and they gave it up. and not before time. How the hell an anti-vaccine organisation ever got charity status, I will never know. But at least they don't have it anymore. So what started off for the AVN as a reasonably good week ended in tears. You can find the link to the full HCCC report and read the blog of this edition of Dr. Rachie Reports on the official blog of the Skeptic Zone, skepticsbook.com. And until next time, this has been Dr. Rachie Reports.
Hey, Kenny.
Oh, hi, Tom.
Nice day at this park, yeah?
Yes, great weather.
Oh, look, a unicorn.
Unicorn? There are no such things as unicorns, silly.
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't.
Hey, guys, what are you arguing about?
Tom thinks unicorns are real.
They so are.
Let's look this up in the Skeptic's Dictionary.
The what?
How can we do this in this park? There is no computer here.
You guys probably don't know about the Skeptic's Dictionary app. Available now for iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch in the App Store.
Wow, cool.
The app lets you access all of the great Skeptic's Dictionary articles when you're on the go. Here, let me look up unicorns.
Oh, cool. Kenny, prepare to be proven wrong.
It says here, the unicorn is a creature from fables.
Aha!
Actually, I see now that someone just dumped their ice cream cone on that horse's head. Thanks, Skeptic's Dictionary iPhone app.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Are you psychic? Do you ever get the feeling that the phone's about to ring and then it does? Spooky, huh? Well, why not call Maynard's Spooky Psychic Line? It will give you eerie predictions that you ignore at your peril.
Thank you for calling. I see a man in a brown hat. He offers you a moose. Take this moose. It will change the government's environmental policy.
Holy spirit antlers, a spooky moose from the spooky side. Mock if you dare.
A bald man will send you some veal in the mail. Open the veal, but do not cook it. It will save your life in a bizarre boating accident.
See your future, be your future on Maynard's Spooky Psychic Line.
You can hear some swinging music because we're out to lunch with Richard Saunders. Richard, of course, the big skeptical episode going on at the moment issue is what happened to that plane. I'm going for the no agenda solution. I'd say the pilot got completely rid of the passengers, and the 1,000-pound lithium battery weight that was added to the flight just before takeoff was not a lithium battery, but in fact some sort of special cargo that the crew has got paid off on in the jungles of Malaysia somewhere where they landed. End of story. Don't bother investigating any further. How does your skeptical brain take that one, Mr. Saunders?
I hardly know where to start, Maynard. I hardly know where to start. Although this one, I feel is going to be conspiracy theories around this for years to come. But as of the moment when we're recording this on a Friday afternoon, they haven't found it.
This is one where science has let us down a bit. The black box isn't beeping away. The transponder was turned off.
I'm surprised. I would have thought that aircraft would have something which was tamper-proof and foolproof, which would always transmit, but I don't know enough about it.
I should have something like that on my car, I suspect, as well. I've got no idea where it was since last Tuesday.
Thank you.
That was Uncle Neville giving us some drinks here. We're actually at the Record Crate, where we'll be doing a Mad Club gig on the 6th of April.
Now, what's that all about, Maynard? Because I've seen that coming up. I've done a commercial for it on the Skeptic Zone. You're going to be here in Glebe, Lee Point Road, opposite Bad Manners, which is a popular landmark, in a couple of weeks, eh?
Yep. I'm just doing a gig. It's just a free gig upstairs here at the Record Crate. It fits about 50 people. Nice little lounge room environment. I was just here one day looking at their second-hand records on the wall, because it's a second-hand record shop, a coffee bar, and a bar all in one. Really, why would you ever leave? The only thing missing is television. Really?
Good.
Yeah, good. That's probably a good thing, yeah. And I thought we'd come here, have a bit of a sit and have a bit of a chat about it, and I'm going to be playing some swinging music all afternoon for, 3 hours.
Oh, you're the man, and you know a lot about these record covers which are everywhere. Let's have a look.
Well, this is why I brought you here, Richard. I thought we'll just do a record cover throwdown challenge. Now, we've got about a dozen records in front of us, ranging from Peggy Lee through to the soundtrack of Morning of the Earth, which is that is your huge stoner surfer film, Richard. If you've never seen Morning of the Earth, it's one of the great stoner.
I have not.
Oh, yeah, Australian surfing film. Now, so out of these 12, that's a few David Bowies. Now, how many of these records of the 15 in front of us have you got?
Quincy Jones. Who else have we got there? You know what? Is that Mick Jagger from...
Yes, from the movie Performance.
Good grief. I'm afraid I don't have any.
Wow, okay. Starting from the top, I've got Runaway Boys by the Stray Cats. I've got the Peggy Lee album, If You Go. I've got Changes One Bowie. I've got... No, I haven't got that Bowie album. I've got Space Oddity Bowie. I've got the best of the Johnny Carson Tonight Show. I've got When the Boys Meet the Girls. There you go. So I've got about a third of those albums on the wall. Isn't that just plain, flat-out sad?
Yes and no, Maynard. What's this? When the Boys Meet the Girls? What the hell?
A Connie Francis movie. It's fantastic. Look, I'm sure Brian Thompson, he would be a guy who would have that in his collection. I'm sure he's mentioned it on his Quit It podcast at some stage.
To set the scene, listeners, we're in a nice little place with wall-to-wall LPs on the wall.
Hang on, I'll just get a bit of the swinging background music.
And in front of us are rows and rows of the classic, what you'd see in a record shop, right, Maynard?
Yep.
Bins and bins and bins of record. We're in the folk section.
Yeah, well, we've got to move away from that, really. You know, you can't get too much folk, I say, but it is possible.
80s. Oh, Maynard.
Yeah. Look,
80s.
Now, here's an album that I bought when I was a teenager that made me incredibly depressed. Bob Dylan's Masterpieces. For some reason, I thought buying a Bob Dylan triple album would be a uplifting experience. I've got that, the Spike album by Elvis Costello. Yeah. It would be an uplifting experience, but Bob Dylan, very depressing, apparently. He sings political songs, which was not really what I was into in the 80s as a child. I was into the Human League and Altered Images.
Human League, look at this selection. Paul Young. My goodness me. Chicago. It's all here, folks.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that these records...
Look at that, a Michelle Shocked album. Isn't that just cute, thinking someone's going to buy that one day?
Swing.
Yep, that's a nice album. And the single on that, so people are interested in... wow. God is a real estate developer. No, that was not the... My Little Sister, I think, was one of the singles off that there. I remember playing that on Triple J.
Genesis is in here.
But, you know, so what is there to be sceptical about a second-hand record shop, apart from whether the record's scratched or not, Richard?
Not much. I must admit, not much at all. We're in the 70s section now. Billy Joel, we've got here. Robert Palmer. Oh, man, it's all happening.
Oh, they're looking for clues.
Dr. Hook.
Dr. Hook. Wow.
Yeah, what a gold mine this is.
Yeah,
what's the name of this place again?
This is the Record Crate, which is right on so many levels. But this is where you need to look over here, Richard, because you're thinking albums, you're thinking 12 inches, but they sell 7 inches here. And this is what I like, is actual prices on some of these. Now, on my podcast, I've already explored the anathema, the unexplainable riddle of the fact. It's like Cold Fusion. It can't be really properly explained that there were 3 7-inch Morrissey singles there for $50 each, and they all sold within a month.
That's hard to explain.
That's $150 worth of Morrissey
picture
gone.
Discs. Look, David Bowie.
Yep.
Superman picture disc.
And here's something skeptical. There you go. The 7-inch of XTC. Dear God.
With a pen through the hand.
Yeah, that's the picture cover. So there.
So people who come along to the Mad Club gig can spend hours going through all this.
Well, yeah, and most of the stuff I'll be playing will probably be available downstairs on second-hand records, but we'll just be upstairs goofing along. We'll have Jeff the shopkeeper, who I used to work with at the Mad Club. I think Tim Ritchie's putting in an appearance, and of course my mate Tony Push will be there. He's reality challenged, and he'll be turning up as the human information booth. He's got this little cardboard booth he's going to make, cut a slot in it, and people can put requests through to him, and he'll tell them things through the slot.
What's the date again?
Okay, that's between 3 and 6 o'clock in the afternoon on the Sunday, the 6th of April. Do come along.
Come along, meet Maynard, meet the gang. I think it'll be a great afternoon.
And it's free, so come along, and if you don't like it, you can just walk in, pretend you didn't see anyone you know, and walk right back out again, and no one will be any wiser.
Thank you, Maynard.
Hi, I'm Finn. And I'm Rebecca, and we're the Skepticons. Skepticons is an Irish podcast by the Dublin Skeptic Society. It takes a conversational, reverent look at science, news, and skeptical topics from an Irish perspective. You can find us at www.theskepticons.com.
You're always sparing with your strong finance.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, here's the information about the upcoming Australian Skeptics National Convention. Tickets for the 2014 Australian Skeptics National Convention are now on sale by the Skeptic Shop. And you can go there very quickly at www.skeptics.com.au. The convention will be held from November the 28th to the 30th in the concert hall of the Concourse Chatswood in Sydney's northern suburb, right on the train line, very convenient. There are 3 different ticketed events. The convention itself running over 2 full days from November 29th to the 30th. The convention dinner featuring a special SGU event on Saturday, November the 29th, and a private recording session of an SGU podcast. However, that event is now sold out. What? The tickets only just went on sale. Wow, that's quick. A pre-convention social gathering will be held on November the 28th. And somebody has a birthday on November the 28th. Anyway, the convention features a great lineup of speakers, including the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, Rogues, George Rubb, Dick Smith, Peter Fitzsimons, Dr. Karl Kruzelniski, sex therapist Bettina Arndt, astronomer Amanda Bauer, Kendrick Fraser, editor of the Skeptical Inquirer, Emmy Award-winning filmmaker Sonia Pemberton, and many, many more still to be announced. The first 95 places booked for the convention will get specially reserved seats in the front rows of the concert hall. And the first 120 bookings will go into a draw for one person to take part in the science or fiction section of the SGU podcast during Saturday. It all sounds great. I can't wait. That information has only just appeared at Australian Skeptics. That's the place to go to find out more. Visit the official site and, of course, buy your convention tickets. Don't delay. Remember, the first 95 people get that special seating. Really looking forward to it. And more special guests will be announced in the months to come. Well, that's all for me for now. I better run downstairs and have yet another cup of maybe ginger tea this time to soothe the old vocal cords. Before I go, a big thank you, as ever, to those wonderful people who chip in to the Skeptic Zone at skepticzone.tv via PayPal. Micropayments of less than $1 a week that basically lets me keep producing the Skeptic Zone. But until next week, this is Richard Saunders, signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.